What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin John.
Necrotic.
And we have yet another album review for you. And this time we're going over a band that, surprise, surprise, I've never heard of. That's what I do here. That's my job on Thralls of Metal, is to not know what the hell is happening until I get through it. So we're going to go over the latest offering from Graceless, Icons of Ruin. This also comes out on the 30th of May on Listenable Records. This band formed in 2016 in the Netherlands. This is their fourth full-length. Shocker, Nick has the other albums, because why wouldn't he, right? You guys have all watched the collection updates. Nick has fucking every album. For those that don't know, this is classified as death metal / doom metal, although I will say, just in listening to this, that it is more old school death metal than doom, but we'll get into that. Features current members of Soulburn and ex-members of Nailgun Massacre.
Much like John said, I do know this band. I have been a fan for at least a little while. I jammed their first album, Shadowlands, on YouTube, and only recently got it, as well as their other two albums, Where Vultures Know Your Name, which is kind of ironic since we just went over Rivers of Nile, but, you know, different bird.
Right.
And before this one, their most recent album, Chants from Purgatory. And, I just kind of like their overall sound. And, man, seeing that this band formed in 2016 is weird, because you'd listen to this and swear this band formed somewhere in, like, 1989. This band has a fiercely old school sound, very much in the vein of bands like Asphyx, which, I mean, it's the same country. There's definitely a lot of comparisons to be made there. Also, Benediction, Jungle Rot, and I would even say, at least on their more doom side, like a band like November's Doom. This is very riff-oriented, very straightforward, very groove-laden. I would call it mostly death metal. Like, most of this is just, like, very mid-tempo, chuggy death metal, like the kind of stuff that you look for in bands like, you know, Bull Thrower, Obituary. It's very on the nose. They find a riff. They just kind of dry hump that thing in a submission, and then they'll, like, sprinkle some melodies on top, and maybe you get some, like, fun transitions therein. But a lot of this is just kind of hooked on that 90s sound.
Now, oddly enough, that descriptor kind of, in a nutshell, describes the entire record. But there are some other things peppered in, mainly melody. Like, for as straightforward and as chuggy as this is, because 90% of this record, much like he said, is all about just chugging your face off. Very straightforward. There's no things like blast beats or anything. You do get a lot of D beats, but melody. There's melody splashed all over this. Songs like Hardening of the Heart, very melodic, very almost like mellow death.
When it comes down to the melodies, like, this is maybe where, like, the doom kind of shows up. It's very melancholic. It's very dreary. Hardening of the Heart, in particular, sounds like a very, like, stripped down Insomnium song. Like, it's kind of got that very gloomy, gray, mellow death sound. A very pretty melody that carries out the entire thing. And, you know, much like any of the songs on here, when this band finds a riff to latch onto, they stay, like, latched onto it. But they do a good job of, like, kind of building around it. A lot of really good lead melodies on here, and some solid solos as well. The vocals, I would say, are very straightforward. It's a solid, very intelligible roar, though I do think when he kind of reaches for that, like, upper level, it gets a little bit more dry sounding.
It sounds a little strained. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like his voice kind of cracks when he tries to go a little bit higher.
Again, Asphyx comparisons, Martin Van Drunen. It's not quite that dry, because no vocals are quite that dry. Like, seriously, I don't know how he does it. We just saw them live, and, like, the entire time he's up there screaming with that dry delivery. I feel like he should be spraying blood on the audience as he's doing that, because it feels like that should come with that noise.
It's like he drank a big bucket of sand before he went on stage.
And, like, gargled broken glass and, you know, gasoline. Mostly the melodies are kind of, like, done in pockets, because, you know, this band is just waiting to find the next nasty riff to latch onto. But they're very effective in terms of, like, opening up the song a little bit and keeping them from being unseasoned meat and potatoes, because this is just straightforward meat, potatoes, death metal for the most part. And I love that sort of thing. Like, give me a good riff, give me a good groove. But the thing that I like in here is they kind of, like, show you a little bit of variety in that style. Like, You get songs that are a little bit more up-tempo, like Night of the Slain. It's a little bit more, 4/4 time, kind of, faster pace. You get some thrashier riffs in there, too, to kind of open it up.
You can get a little bit of off time. For the most part, everything is really straightforward. We're talking 4/4. It doesn't really leave that. It'll go half time every now and again. But there's nothing really that deviates outside of that. Except in Night of the Slain, there is a little bit of like an off time hitch, like the tag towards the end of the riff, and you're just like, oh, that's something different. And it doesn't happen again throughout the entire record. It's just in that one spot.
Yeah, I think it's honestly on the bridge, which the bridge on that song, they kind of just like let that one ride. There's multiple leads on it. It's got some good biting melodies to it. And this opens up right away with like a pair of like really solid, just old school bangers. God Shines in Absence and Sanctified Slaughter. And they're different too. Like, God Shines in Absence is probably one of the faster tracks. You get like some, more straightforward, fast D beats on it. Nasty, chuggy riffs. I gotta say the production here is pretty damn good. They definitely went for a very old school sound, and they definitely got it. But it's mixed well. Nothing feels like it's trying to, fight for power in the mix at all. Yeah, everything is crystal clear. Hell, you can even make out the bass. And then Sanctified Slaughter is a little bit slower. You get that chuggy double time, just like fucking bolt thrower groove.
Yep,
like it's
100%.
It's there. It's like tank tread rolling over corpses. But I like this song in particular because while I wouldn't describe a lot of these songs as like super dynamic, like they're not trying to like push much outside of the sandbox that this sound, kind of just lives in and thrives in. But this one has some really fun riff changes. Like you get that machine gun stomp to begin with. It's nice. It's urgent. It's very familiar.
Yes.
But then it just takes this hard shift in these slow, lumbering chugs. Like it goes straight from like, I don't know, something off of like For Victory to Procreation of the Wicked.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a swampy, sludgy riff. And I kind of expected that to keep like switching up. Like that would be like the two main things, because a lot of these songs will have, a couple of parts that really repeat, maybe like, a big standout section on the bridge. But this one had a lot of fun riff changes towards the end. And honestly, it kind of got like a little bit faster towards the end. You get some like galloped kind of, I wouldn't call them blasts, but they're like a punchier D beat.
Like a galloped rock beat. Like it was a little bit faster. I don't know if I would necessarily even call it a D beat just because of the way it was set up. And you get a lot of that. But they do like to switch around from D beats to halftime chugs to just like a normal straightforward groove to some gallops. It's all within those four things. Just a lot of tropes of old school death metal. And you know how they did say that this was death doom. I mean, there are some definite parts that are a lot more heavier than others and a lot more sinister. Ungodliness is straight up David Vincent era Morbid Angel. That riff that opens it up is probably the most evil thing on this record.
It's just got that weird, Morbid Angel sort of like tremolo harmony. Drum-wise, it's definitely not Pete Sandoval. It's more like if you got like Donald Tardy to drum over like, some Morbid Angel riffs, like, and kind of give it like that just like nice pocket of groove. It's lumbering, but it's got this cool, sinister vibe to it. It doesn't feel like forlorn or anything, which when it comes down to like the doomier moments on here, I would say it feels more like melancholic rather than, evil. Like it's simply got its evil moments, but for the most part, you get that more melancholic vibe. And there's just some good flat out heavy songs. Like, nothing like super flashy about them, but they're just good at being heavy and chuggy. Rise of the Blackest Sun and A King in the Filth in particular, just some good heavy bangers. A King in the Filth might have my favorite riff on the entire album. Isolated opening, it just kind of lets this beefy, chuggy riff ring out. We both instantly thought of Down when we heard it. It was like,
Bury Me in Smoke.
Yeah, it's just kind of got that, just chuggy intro. It's groove laden. It's as filthy as this king they're talking about, I'm sure. It starts off like more slow and plodding and kind of steadily builds up speed. It gets a little bit like thrashier towards the end. They do mix in like some slight thrashy riffs every now and then, but they never go like full bore thrash in terms of the rhythms. And Rise of the Blackest Sun is just a nasty double time chugathon. Really cool triplet accents on that main riff. But I have to say, like, during this entire listen, the thing that I was really looking for was Doom. In fact, on previous albums, I think I found a little bit more Doom. And it wasn't until we got down to the track Beneath Starless Skies that we got some legit Doom. Like, the song is slow, and it stays pretty much slow as hell. You get the woeful, dreary guitar harmonies. There's even a Funeral Doom-esque breakdown on it. And even lyrically, like, this one goes way more for the Doom. In fact, I didn't quite get every word, but the whole impression I got from the lyrics in that song was, just fucking kill me now. Oh, death, take me. Quit taking your goddamn time. Albeit done way more poetically. The vocals on this one are particularly more agonized. You get, again, a little bit more of that higher register scream where you can kind of hear his throat start to crack a little bit. And again, this was probably the lone moment on here where I really got, like, you know, flat out Doom. Like, there's definitely cold, melodic, harrowing melodies on here, but for the most part, I would say that this stays in kind of that mid-tempo death metal sort of realm. Like, Lash Me to My Painful Death. I mean, that's a very doomy title right there, and a pretty doomy song overall. It has a distant tritone, but it inevitably kind of shifts into like a more mid-tempo, kind of like more melodic death metal song. Doom is kind of, I don't know, like more of a seasoning on here, and it's a very light seasoning. Again, very comparable to Asphyx. Though with Asphyx, you get those big breaks into like those heavy, droning, lumbering riffs, much like you get with like Autopsy and such. You don't really get that here. A lot of this kind of holds the course, and granted, it's a solid course. It's been taken many times before, but it's kind of missing just, I don't know, crippling depression. Like, one song wasn't quite enough. I needed to feel more woefulness, more mournfulness.
Like, when I think of Doom, I think of My Dying Bride. That's just the whole time I'm just like, I can't. I'm done. I'm sad. I'm going to be sad for the rest of my life. I think smiles have left my face forever.
One of the things that I think kind of made this like a little bit less doomy overall was also like the pace of it. The pace of the album stays very mid-tempo, and it has slow sections. There are sections where it gets in that halftime groove, or even like a little bit slower, but it rarely stays there. These guys like to speed up, which, you know, I'm cool with that. That's good, you know, as long as you got some good riffs over it, but in terms of that doomier aspect, I feel like slowing it down, like this needed some songs that just stayed slow and miserable, or at least slow enough for the misery to catch up to them, because I feel like they were trying to outpace all the depression that should have caught them by now.
And now, Beneath the Starless Skies, this song is, of course, very much towards the end of the record, and by very much towards the end of the record, I mean the second to last song, and it was very different from everything else. But fret not, they want to be a little bit different with the closing track, Resurrection of the Graveless, which is, again, vastly different from everything else. In fact, it opens up with a bass and drum gallop, like an isolated bass and drum gallop, and it's kind of what you think you're going to get for the whole rest of the song, but it's not.
No, you kind of get this, like, Motorhead-ish thump, or, I mean, I just might as well just say Asphyx again, because their fast songs kind of sound like this too. But it's got some like solid, good, chuggy riffs towards the end. It's a little bit more energetic, and you know, I kind of liked it, though I felt like this could have been somewhere near the middle of the album. But I do know that I thought this was pretty solid, and you know, only recently getting into this band, you know, this band has, again, a sound that is much older than this band, even though these guys have been in bands that have been around for a while too.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. It was kind of close to a 3.5, but this is just a good death metal album. Straightforward, old school death metal. It has some elements of death doom, though I don't think enough for me to actually call it death doom flat out, but I think it's used pretty well as a seasoning when they decide to get, you know, very depressive and cold and melancholic. It's effective in the melodies. I just wish they would kind of like slow it down a little bit and kind of stay in that somber pace. Like, this album could have used a couple of just slow, brooding songs to kind of play off the faster or more mid-tempo songs. Love the double-time chugathons. We love our bolt thrower here, and this definitely has that vibe. And again, like, you know, benediction, stuff like that. I think all this is really well executed. It's just, you know, stuff that I've definitely heard before, and I think even this band has done maybe a little bit better in the past with the other albums. But yeah, if you're a big fan of just flat-out old-school death metal, again, Benediction, Jungle Rot, Bolt Thrower, a little bit of November's Doom too, even like some early Paradise Lost occasionally, check this album out. Pretty good listen.
I'm actually going to go ahead and give this 3.5 stars, and it's mostly because this record is just jam-packed full of chugs. And it doesn't have to be flashy all the time for me to enjoy it. Like, I like bands like Jungle Rot and Bolt Thrower, of course, and you know that those guys weren't all about flashiness. They were more about just in-your-face pummeling grooves, and that's what's all over this record. Yes, it may be pretty simplistic to the fact that there's only like 4 parts: stomps, gallops, D-beats, and just a regular like halftime thing. But again, that's something that I like about death metal, mainly old school death metal, is the fact that it is just pummeling, and these guys accomplished that. The transitions are great. Despite its simplistic nature, the songs are pretty well constructed. I really don't have a whole lot of gripes about transitions here. I think that this band would be absolutely killer at the Ram's Head or Nevermore Hall for MDF next year. I'm just going to throw that out there in case anyone is watching that gives a shit. Put these guys at the Ram's Head or Nevermore Hall. The production on it is great. Again, it's got that very 90s death metal sound, but it's very crisp and it's very clear. You can hear the guitars well. The drums aren't overpowering anything. There's no like fuzz on them. They're big cannon drums. I like that you can hear the bass. In fact, I like that they do things like isolate the bass and the drums together just to give everybody a chance to kind of shine out there. But yeah, if you're into stuff like that, if you're into a band that is just solid, straightforward, again, much like Jungle Rot and Bolt Thrower would be, give these guys a spin. I haven't heard of these guys till today, but I'm going to go back and listen to the rest of it because I had a good time with this record. So yeah.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and our Lone Perk is doing a members-only live stream, which we will get down to doing that at some point here, because we're due for one, and granted, we are probably going to do a whole stream with our buddies for MDF. We'll probably have some more MDF stories to tell or stories to retell. Who knows? Either way, memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with the t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below. And there's a join button down there if you would like to join up and talk about old school death metal with us, or, you know, not talk about old school death, but you can talk about anything with us, really. It can get weird. Trust me, it does get weird.
It does. We don't pull any punches. We don't care, man. Ask us whatever you want. And if you don't want to join, that's cool too. We, of course, do live streams that aren't just solely catered to our members. Both of the members' live streams and the normal live streams are pretty goddamn stupid, though. We think you guys probably know that by now. We have a lot of returning people that come in and chit-chat with us. We really like that. Tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings. We got At the Gates coming up next. We have a new segment that runs in tandem with the discography rankings, the Thralls Greatest Hits. You guys seem to like the Death one. We're going to do Sepultura next. That's going to be pretty cool. I'm actually really stoked to talk about that. That's going to be a fun one. Beyond that, Nick's got his never-ending collection updates. States of Metal. Is it metal? Is it not metal? All the time. That's what we do here at Thralls of Metal because we care about you guys. Because without you guys, we simply... I mean, we could probably still do this. It just wouldn't be nearly as fun as it is. You guys bring that fun to the table. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you, because you guys are flat out awesome, and we will catch you later.